Happy Friday, everyone. Back for another episode of the Tech Behind FinTech. I'm your host, Nnamdi Osuagwu. Really good to be back. Tech Behind FinTech, where we talk about the technology that powers the money. Today's episode, we're going to get into some news topics of the week that we found interesting and jump on some security topics afterwards. How's everyone doing today? Feel free to comment. So listen, we're going live from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitch. And we also have Instagram going too on the side through a device. They're getting behind the scenes footage. So all my Instagram folks, go to the Tech Behind FinTech so you can see things that we post in our slide deck and things of that nature. Okay, let's get into it today. Hope everyone's excited this Friday. Definitely everyone has cool weekend plans. Let's get this thing going on the bottom. Cool. Some housekeeping things before we get started. Have our comment section ready. Okay, let's get it popping. So what's first on the agenda? UK fintech investment defies global downturn with 24% growth. Want to get into some stats, really interesting article. Let me just adjust my background. Okay, that's done. Found this one really interesting. So, obviously we know what's going on in the current market, especially in the US, a lot of consolidation, some investments are down, but here's what they're saying in the UK. New data released by Innovate Finance, the industry body representing the fintech community in the UK, has revealed that the country saw a 24% year-on-year increase in fintech investments in the first half of 2022, despite a global slowdown in funding. UK-based fintech firms received 9.1 billion in investment spread across 294 deals compared to 7.3 billion across 375 deals in the first half of 2021. So it definitely jumped. The total capital invested in fintech globally hit 59 billion in 2022, flat year on year compared to 2021. 59 billion capital invested spread across 3,045 deals, slightly less than last year, which saw 3,401 deals in its first half. So if you look at ranking across the globe, the US has received the most investment in the first half of the year, bringing in 25 billion, with the UK ranking second with 9.1 billion. India came third with 3.9 billion, Germany fourth, 2.4 billion, and France fifth at 2.3 billion. Interesting stats. Someone from Innovate Finance, the UK is currently receiving more investment in fintech than all of Europe, second only in the world to the US. So we definitely found those stats interesting, given that we are the tech behind fintech and looking at the startup communities and VC funding. Let's see some more people join from Instagram. Hey, wave it at people. All right. What is the next article of the day? Let's jump into it. So Equifax, they're expanding their digital identity and fraud capabilities with the acquisition of Mitigator. So Equifax is acquiring a chargeback fraud prevention firm, Mitigator. Real interesting things around that. So Mitigator's solution complement the Equifax Count Identity Trust Global Network, which uses AI to link trust and fraud data signals from 32 billion digital interactions, 17 billion unique devices, and 5 billion annual transactions across 200 countries and territories. The global e-commerce market continues to change, with sales expected to reach 5.5 trillion in 2022. Transaction and chargeback disputes are climbing, driving the need for more automated, data-driven chargeback prevention dispute management. One stat that I found really interesting: the global omnichannel digital payments are expected to grow from 2.6 billion users in 2020 to over 4.4 billion users in 2025. Dispute and chargeback rates present a growing problem for businesses around the world. So just a little bit about Mitigator. Mitigator was founded in 2013. by merchants to solve real merchant challenges. The founders were successful e-commerce entrepreneurs who were looking to address the fact that increasing chargebacks made it difficult to scale their business. Since its founding, Mitigator claims to have prevented more than 2.7 million chargebacks. All right, so more people are joining from Instagram, waving at them. So this acquisition looks extremely looks interesting, especially it's a good synergy. Every time I hear about acquisitions or MMA deals, I always think about security and integration, how when you merge the two, the proper how that whole thing works out. But obviously, probably it's always a challenge with some firms when you start combining two, looking at the systems involved, looking at your security, looking at integration paths and so forth. Common M&A things to think about. All right, let's move on to the next article. So Apple is being sued over alleged anti-competitive over Apple Pay practices. So according to Reuters, plaintiff Affinity Credit Union says Apple's anti-competitive behavior forces 4,000 banks and credit unions that use Apple Pay to fork out at least $1 billion worth of excess fees a year. The class action lawsuit was filed in the U.S. District Court of the Northern District of California and alleges Apple coerces consumers who use its devices into using Apple Pay for contactless payments. Found that very interesting. Similar to saying, Android does not do that. In May, the European Commission notified Apple over the company's anti-competitive decision to limit mobile wallet app developers' access to its contactless payments hardware and software. It's kind of interesting. That was really a quick one. Moving over to another article that we found interesting, more around the fintech. So I'm always interested to see this when community banks start to go through a digital transformation. So this one I found interesting. Arvest Bank teams up with Google Cloud to boost digital transformation. Arkansas based Arvest Bank has entered a 5-year partnership with Google Cloud as it looks to accelerate its digital transformation strategy. The community bank says it plans on overhauling its current IT systems, including migrating its data centers to Google Cloud. It also aims to leverage Google Cloud's AI and machine learning tools to enhance customer experience and streamline services. The rapid shifts around consumer financial needs and behavior, along with expectation for consistent customer engagement across channels, impose unprecedented demands for technology and speed of execution, says Arvest CEO Kevin Sabin. Moving to the cloud is another key component to our transformation. So Arvest Bank serves 110 communities in Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. They manage more than $26 billion in assets. It has a network of more than 200 banking locations and provides loans, deposits, treasury management, credit cards, mortgage loans, and mortgage services. So, pointing this out, it's interesting to see, like I said, that's not the first community bank we talked about. Plenty are just, whether they're using, one of the big three, whether it's Azure, Google Cloud, or AWS, right? This is interesting to see, those types of migration efforts and basically going through their digital transformation. Because if you look at more of the incumbents, the bigger investment banks, they're way ahead of technology and resources than these community banks. So it's almost like, it's similar if you think about it to a startup now versus a startup in the 90s, right? You actually had to, buy your service. And it was just so much of a upfront cost to start something in the 90s, a technology company, right? Because you needed to have your stuff on prem, and you needed to actually, invest so much upfront. Where now, you can open up you have an idea with the technology, you can deploy to the cloud in minutes, and if you know what you're doing in a few hours, and all of a sudden you have something on the cloud and you're not paying for it, you're just paying for what you use as opposed to the capital expenditure of buying it all up front. So in that same thread, right, it gives smaller banks the ability now to compete with bigger ones because they can leverage, cloud technology and so forth. So it's interesting to see where the industry is going with these digital transformations. Let's move on. This I found very interesting. We're gonna switch it over to some cybersecurity stuff. So cybercriminals recycle ransomware and they're getting faster. Good. Let's talk through this. So, like history, right? Ransomware repeats itself. Researchers recently encountered a new variant of a ransomware campaign and observed that it has been improving itself by reusing code from publicly available sources. Uh, Nokoyawa is a new ransomware for Windows that first appeared at the beginning of this year. First samples found by FortiGuard researchers were gathered in February 2022 and contain significant coding similarities with Karma, a ransomware that could be traced back to Nnamdi. And Nnamdi ransomware was first reported in 2019. So, it's an iteration, and they're just leveraging past code and they're improving on faults. We're going to get into that right now. So the April 2022 samples include 3 new features that increase the number of files that the Nokoyawa ransomware can encrypt. These features already existed in recent ransomware families, and their addition just indicates that the Nokoyawa developers are trying to match pace with other operators in terms of technological capabilities. Don't got dry a little bit, pardon. So I mean, like any innovation, right? These guys are trying to keep up with the pace. For example, criminals included functions to stop processes and services that lower the number of files locked by other programs so that the encryption code can encrypt those files. The code, including a list of processes and service names, is identical to Babook's implementation, another ransomware. So let's just get into it. What are some strategies that organizations can use to protect itself? So the biggest thing is a deeper understanding of attack techniques. I have on the screen right now, if you're on Instagram, you're not going to see my screen, but it's the MITRE attack framework. You could just Google MITRE, that's spelled MITRE. Yeah, attack framework. And it's basically the cybersecurity kill chain. And you look at all the different steps. So it's an interesting stat that they pulled out. The top 3 strategies for the execution phase represent 82% of the activity. Nearly 95% of the measured functionality is represented by the top 2 approaches for gaining a foothold in the persistent phase. Using this research to prioritize security strategies can have significant impact on how business maximize their protection. So what does that mean, right? So essentially, what they're saying is, if you look at the MITRE attack framework and you look at the execution phase, which we have on the screen, once again, if you're on Instagram, you're not seeing this, you should go to Tech Behind FinTech, but everyone else is seeing it on the screen. And you really start looking at your attack, the techniques and procedures, and you can start guarding against that, because they're saying the majority of their strategies are going to leverage that. So if you can get ahead of it by understanding it, the techniques, and then providing certain mitigation strategies to prevent it. Number 2, look, cyber hygiene. So security awareness is critical. You have a lot of remote staff right now in disparate parts of the world working for organizations. Everyone needs to have some sort of cybersecurity hygiene and awareness training so they can spot phishing campaigns. They can spot, they call it malvertising. Essentially, when you go to certain websites or even apps, there's ads. Some of those ads are not really trying to sell you something. They're actually paid for by nefarious actors. And the goal is, when you click on that link, you could potentially get malware downloaded on your endpoint or your machine or your device. So you kind of need to be aware of this, and it's different social engineering attacks. So it's good to get trained on it, and companies should sponsor that. Also, multi-factor authentication. So just a password alone is just not the is not going to protect you. You need to have some sort of like two-factor a way of doing it, whether it's an authentication app they have now or ping. I mean, and look, and I'm talking to people also on Instagram. I've seen outside of ransomware, I've just seen different Instagram accounts get compromised because they just had the password protecting them and they got caught in some vote for me or something like that, and somebody clicks a button. So if you could protect your social media accounts, and I mean, not only for organizations now and ransomware, just speaking in general, by having some sort of multi-factor authentication. If you look in your settings, you can set that up on all of your accounts. But in general, you should kind of have these things set up even for all your online accounts, bank accounts, and so forth. And to summarize, organizations can strengthen their security posture by getting detailed information on current attack techniques and keeping their employees' cyber hygiene training up to date. So that's really it today. Quick show. Just wanted to jump into some topics. Let me remove that. See who anyone commenting. And always, right? If you have questions, you want to add to the discussion, feel free to comment. Feel free to all good. I'll talk through it. And we can go back and forth. I always give it a second before ending the show, just in case there are some comments, because I know there's a delay in terms of me speaking and you guys hearing it. And then sometimes after the show ends, someone will post a question. So I'll give it a second. In the meantime, what do you guys have planned this weekend? Let's see. I'm asking those on Instagram. Any big plans this weekend? Post it out. I'll shout you out. Or anyone commented on it? Well, my big plan this weekend, I'll volunteer it, is I'm going to compete in a jiu-jitsu tournament. Should be fun with people a lot younger than me. That should be cool. One of my friends, one of my guys who's going to also be at the comp on Instagram said, where we're going to be this weekend. Yeah, Chris, we're gonna try to win it. So there's a tournament this weekend. Should be fun. Cool. Listen, I think that concludes the episode today. Covered some interesting topics around fintech and security. Like always, we go live every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I thank you all for watching and listening to the show. Our website is the techbehindfintech.com. Feel free to visit it. That's pretty much it. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll catch you guys next week, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Cheers.